This is the way you want to look at RPA, okay? First of all, we call it a digital employee because it does actually everything an employee would do behind a computer. So if it runs a lot of tasks, those are different tasks that have to complete a process.
Hello world, this is BetterTech, a podcast where we chat with some of the most successful leaders about the latest industry developments. So join us as we explore the world reliant on tech. This episode is brought to you by Techcell, a leading software development company. Check them out at techcell.com. Today we have with us Wilton Rogers, CEO, STA Group, and a digital transformation consultant to explain what exactly RPA is, its do's and don'ts, and how RPA helps businesses out, including benefiting your company's financial statements.
Hi Wilton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mohammed. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation about robotics process automation. I'm really excited because, let's get the genie out of the bottle. Many companies, many kind of people are talking about RPA and AI and machine learning and all of these fancy technologies without having kind of a detailed understanding what they really are. So I thought maybe let's have a conversation today and kind of unlock this whole technical jargon, what it's all about. So I think no better person than you, because you certainly have a lot of experience running your companies and then moving and transitioning from that into a role where you realize the value of RPA. And then now you're kind of all into kind of talking about and working in the field of robotics process automation. So let's hear it firsthand from you what exactly it does. But I'm going to start off with some really basic questions so that the audience also gets to know a bit more about where you started off from and then where you are right now. So talk to us again a little bit more about where you started to kind of started off, and then how did you come to know about RPA and what was your journey like?
Well, I appreciate it, Mohammed. First, I appreciate you allowing me to be on your show. It's an honor. And a little bit of a background about me. I am a serial entrepreneur. Ever since I was a small kid, I've always known that for some reason that I just love being the boss, I guess. Not necessarily the boss, but having control of what I do. I'm not a bossy guy, but it's more having control of what I do. But I've also worked in the corporate world. But over the last 25 plus years, I've owned and operated six businesses in 5 different industries. So what I've done is I sort of worked my way in an industry, whatever industry I was, understood what that industry was doing, really saturated myself with what I had to do to make myself successful in the industry. And then it got to a point where you know that your value or you couldn't move up any further. So I was always working on ways to work my way out and do my own thing. And so in all those industries, I sort of worked my way up to a certain point, and then I left them to open up my own business in that industry. And it really allowed me to really, first of all, learn from those that have already been there without having to necessarily start over. And then, so walking into these industries, I had somewhat of a success going into them, or have an idea of how to be successful in it. And it really had that mindset of being a business owner and being able to get back to my community and employ other individuals. And at some point, I would, after a few years, I might have just sold it, or someone would come in and buy my business, and then I'll jump into another corporation and do the same thing. And about 3.5 years ago, I finally sold my last one was in the fitness industry. I sold that business, and I was just sort of getting bored, and I was like, I had to go back to work. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into the hotel industry. So I went to the hotel industry, and I had opportunity to work for another hotel. And right before that happened, I got a call from my brother. My brother was an engineer for a Fortune 100 company, and he was the main engineer, the chief engineer for RPA, Robotic Process Automation. And he started telling me more about what it was, and that him and a couple partners were thinking about opening up their own business. And a long story short, they opened up they opened up their own RPA company, but their focus was more on the small businesses because small businesses weren't allowed to have this service. So, it stayed in the enterprise world, the Fortune 500 world, because that's where it was very popular. No one in the small and medium-sized businesses even really heard about RPA 3 years ago. It was, and if they did, they thought it was just another type of software, which we'll go into here in a bit. So I finally moved to Houston and started understanding how RPA can really help businesses out. And because I've been a business owner, I knew the mindset of a business of trying to eliminate a lot of these tasks so they could focus their time, attention, and their finances on more productive, billable type tasks and branding and things like that. So it was it was a learning curve because a lot of businesses didn't understand how to really grow their business through RPA. But after trial and error, in fact, it took me, to be exact, 251 no's till I finally got my first yes. So that's how dedicated I was because I knew that where this industry was going, and I saw the value that it was bringing a lot of businesses in the mid-market. And so I stayed with it because I knew sooner or later the people are going to understand it, the word's going to get out there, people are going to really catch on to what we're doing. So that's how I got started. But then, over probably the last 6 months, I was working with businesses doing one process here, one process there. And as a business owner, I could see the value, but I wasn't really educating them on how much RPA can really impact their company. And so I started focusing on working with the leadership teams, their managers, their directors, and finding all the areas of their businesses that they spend time behind a computer. And then I started really visualizing or building out flow charts exactly how we can automate a lot of these different tasks and processes. And once we start seeing how we can do that, businesses start paying more attention to it. And I start getting more use cases, and I start getting more, a little bit more attention. And then you hear more people hearing about RPA and more about RPA. So now they're starting to, they start coming and asking more questions about it. And by going through all those objections and all those hurdles that we had gone through, it's been a little easier to answer their questions, to be able to show them how to integrate RPA into their systems without having to go through a bunch of hurdles, without having to start from the beginning, because it is a learning curve if people still are trying to figure out what does really RPA do. So getting them past that hurdle was something that I enjoyed doing because I understood coming from the mindset of a business owner, but understanding how engineers work and bridging that gap between them, and the language between them, and making it easy for businesses to understand. So that's how I got involved with RPA, and I'm having a blast doing it now.
All right, that absolutely makes sense. And I think that was a very interesting point that you raised about understanding the mindset of a business owner, and that you could do because, no matter whether you're a technical person or you're not, you have to really be in the shoes of a decision maker or a business owner to understand what really those kind of manual repeated processes, obviously they have a cost, right? And you want to basically automate those, get rid of all of those repeatable tasks. If you can kind of outsource that, that's one way. But if you can just kind of automate that, then obviously that saves a lot of cost. So I think that's 100% understandable. But let me start off with a basic question again, because I do understand that many companies have started to understand the value of RPA. So it's robotic process automation. So there's some sort of automation, of course, it's going to bring in some efficiency. So that certainly is kind of a jargon that resonates with the ideology or kind of mindset of a business owner. But largely speaking, a lot of companies are still kind of they don't understand what exactly RPA is and what it can do for their businesses. So talk to me a little bit more about what exactly robotics process automation is. In a layman's
Absolutely.
terms, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the misunderstanding comes from, because every business nowadays, when I usually talk to businesses, they say they already have automation, and I already know that it's more of a software automation. It allows a certain program they put information in a certain program and it automates it and it puts it in certain areas for them. But there's still a lot of human element that goes to it. From application to application to application, it takes someone manually to be able to get some information here, put it into a certain program, output it here and save it here. So there's a lot of manual work that goes into it. So what I tell a lot of my clients is, this is the way you want to look at RPA, okay? First of all, we call it a digital employee because it does actually everything an employee would do behind a computer. So if it runs a lot of tasks, those are different tasks that have to complete a process. If you can figure out how much of those tasks are done behind a computer manually, we can go in there and show you how much of that can be automated. And anything that's in a digital format, whether it's a PDF, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be software, it can be applications. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's in a digital format, it can be automated. Okay, because they're all rule-based. Everything is rule-based. Okay, and all those rule-based processes, they're repetitive. You do them over and over and over and over and over again. But they might have a different look to it, because I'll give you an example, like invoices. You could have 1,000 invoices coming in from 1,000 different companies, and they all look different, but it's still the same repetitive job, same repetitive task. Once you show us how to build those rules, once you build those rules for us and you show them how they're already done, we can go in there and we can build a process to repeat it over and over and over again. And the great thing about it is that it will never make a mistake, and it works as fast as any application allows it to work. So as long as that application can download and upload and work as fast as it works, the bot, we call it a digital employee, but some people call it a bot. It will run that fast, and it'll never make a mistake, because what happens when you build those rules is that if it doesn't recognize something, it's almost like a red light clicks on, it comes back and it goes back to what we call the gatekeeper and ask them, hey, you know what, we never discussed this, what do I do here? It's almost like you hire a new employee, it's like they go through everything, and they don't know anything. They say, okay, hey, I'm stuck here. They'll go back to the supervisor and ask them, what do I do here? And the supervisor tell them, okay, this is what you do here. And they say, okay, thank you. And they'll continue they're doing it. But the great thing about it is that once you tell it to do it one time, it'll never ask you to do it again. So eventually it's running on autopilot. It's just going and going and going and going. You do behind a computer can more likely be automated, because they're all rule-based. Anything rule-based and repetitive can definitely be automated.
Right. So you started off by talking about, in 2 words, we actually described the whole description or definition of robotics process automation. You said it's basically a digital employee. I think that sums it up really nicely. So because we're talking about a process which was previously being done by somebody. It was an employee who could fall sick, he could be demotivated, he could have like a family problem or kind of go on leaves, and he can make mistakes, and he's obviously slow and everything. But with automation, with kind of robotic RPA, what we're doing is essentially building a program which is a digital employee. So obviously it can't fall sick. And the benefit is that it doesn't make a mistake as well. And the last benefit, I think, is that, the costs are reduced, obviously, because you don't have to pay a constant salary to the digital employee anyway. So I think that saves the cost as well. And that's very, very effective. I think that's certainly the future is there. But the second question that I actually have for you is that, because we're talking about kind of everything which was 40 years ago being done by humans is now being automated. So should the people who are actually doing these jobs, for example, kind of very hardworking people like your personal assistant or people who are doing some manual jobs, should they be insecure with RPA? They're at the end of the day the ones who are going to be probably losing their jobs just because a digital employee is coming in to take that over. Don't you think?
That's a great question. And at first, I would say yes. When you first think about it, the first thought that's going to come to the head is yes. But you have to look at it this way. In the Fortune 500 world, I would say that might be because they're looking to they're looking to grow their business by automating everything, and the shareholders are looking to have bigger pockets. So if you can eliminate a lot of the overhead, of course you're gonna make a lot more, right? But in the mid-market, in the small, medium-sized businesses, and what we're seeing a huge growth in employment. And the reason why is because, and this is one thing that we really talk about during our presentation when we're talking to businesses is there's a lot of businesses, like you said, they've been doing this over and over and over for years and years, and some people have been there for decades, and they're like, oh man, they're going to replace me. I've been doing these forever. The great thing about it is that these individuals have a lot more to give to the company than eliminating them, because they have history there. They have a lot of history there. And if you can show them other ways to help brand the business, to help work on more billable type tasks, customer service, things like this, with their history of that company, we've seen that they've been able to grow, because now they're taking them from a job they're doing behind the desk and putting them on the front line and using their voice as experience for that company, which brings that company a lot more value. So we're seeing in the small, medium, and mid-sized businesses that they're starting to see a lot more growth in adding on businesses, because now they can grow faster, because all these processes that they used to do are now automated, and now they're using humans to be human. Now they're using humans to grow the business. Automation can't grow a business. It can streamline everything, but it's attention that grows a business. You get attention. Humans give that attention. They can work on marketing. They can work on social media. They can work on sales. They can work customer service. All these different areas where they feel like they can give more value to the business now is where we're starting to see them be added. And when we talk to businesses, that's the thing we say is like, you know what? When you talk to your employees, you have to let them know that this is an opportunity for them to really showcase their skills, their talents, their experience. And that's what we're seeing, a lot of growth. So yes, to answer your question, it can be, scary when you first hear it, but when you really understand the value that you can really give to a business, because a value is not putting your head down and working on a computer. That's not value, right? That's support. That's allowing the businesses to run and give you a paycheck. But giving you personal value and being able to work with a business and give you your experience is a game changer. And not only that, retention is a lot higher, because now these people are feeling more, that they're getting more, that they're providing more to the company, that they're more of an impact to the company. And we're also seeing that with these repetitive type tasks, that's where you see a lot of turnover, because they get bored, they get tired, they get left alone, they get ignored. So these are the areas that we're starting to see that, now that you don't have to work down there anymore, you can be more on the front end of the business. Now you're receiving the attention. Now you're being more valued. So so at first, yes, but later, once you understand how it works, businesses are starting to see the value and seeing how fast they can actually scale their company.
I think that's you're absolutely right there. So what we're talking about is, and we're not by bringing in automation, by building a digital employee or robotics process automation, we're not talking about essentially getting rid of the existing employees. We're kind of realigning their goals, or kind of refocusing their attention and changing the roles in a way that they're able to focus on those tasks that are really important. For example, customer service, sales, and marketing. They're going out and interacting with the customer, because that is what matters. People buy from people. So that's exactly what we want, rather than people kind of focusing on manual tasks and kind of focusing all of the attention in that direction. We want them to focus on the parts where they're kind of more resonating with what the customer actually wants, and bringing in the meantime, efficiency and getting rid of inefficiencies, obviously. So that's I think that makes sense. Here's you talked about the digital employee. I think that explains to a certain extent what RPA does, but people also kind of sometimes confuse between what robotics process automation is and what is basically workflow automation. So we're talking about, for example, in the past, if a business was operating in a way that they had some paper-based or let's say Excel-based workflows that they were following, which were slow and which had more inefficiencies and redundancies in them, or maybe they were relying too much on paper-based workflows. Now they're kind of building software for that. Sometimes people think that's robotics process automation, but that's not, right? What's the real difference between general workflow automation done through software and robotics process automation?
Great question. Great question. Well, look at it this way: every company has a workflow. They have a workflow for a process, and I'm working with a large law firm now, and they did everything on an Excel spreadsheet, right? And if in the Excel spreadsheet, it'll tell them you have to put that information into this program because certain things go into different place, and then they have to go from this program, put it into another program. All these different programs now are all software. All these programs they're software. And so software is almost like you can buy it over the shelf. You can buy it online. You can buy different programs to really speed up whatever task you're doing. So, but when it comes down to the RPA gets a whole flow chart that you just build out, and it'll tell you exactly, okay, this information you wanted to go here, this information you wanted to go here, this information you had to go here. And it starts connecting all the dots to where everything has to go. So what happens is the digital employee, like I said, it's almost like training someone you're hiring. You train them from the beginning. I want this to go here, 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 here. At the end of the day, this has to be here, right? You have to train them over and over how to do that, and finally, sooner or later, they'll remember it. But software automation and RPA, software allows you to speed up that specific task that you have to do, whether it's bringing that information from an Excel spreadsheet into a program. Okay, that's automation. It's definitely automation. You can upload this. You've seen places where you can upload PDFs, so you can upload Excel, and all of a sudden it goes into a program that's all there. That's software automation, right? But what if that stuff doesn't just stay there? It has to go somewhere else, and that somewhere else, humans have to put it somewhere else. So that's where the RPA comes into place. It connects all those different programs. It doesn't matter how complex it is. It doesn't matter how often it's used. It connects all those programs to streamline from the beginning to the end of the process. So software automation is something that we've all been used to. In fact, we always upgrade when we see something new. We're like, oh, you know what? We want the newer and the better thing right now. So let's upgrade from this program to this program because it looks like it has a lot more to offer. That's still software, because if someone's using that software, if another company is using that same software you are, that's just software automation. RPA, it has to be customized to what you're using right now. So you don't have to switch up any programs that you're using, any legacy systems that you're using. It connects the dots from the beginning to the end. You never have to buy another piece of software as long as that process doesn't change. So that's the difference. I hope that answers your question.
No, absolutely it does. It does it very nicely. But that brings me to my next question, actually, that, I mean, we've spoken at length about what RPA does, and I think it's for any size business, or at least for as far as the decision makers or the stakeholders or business owners are concerned, they certainly understand the value of automation. However, we also feel and have seen that in the past, let's say 3 years or so, the adoption of RPA has not been that kind of up to speed. I mean, we're talking about technology which can bring in directly a lot of efficiency to the business. It can save you costs, it can automate the work, so on and so forth. But still we see that there's a lot of kind of gap between how the businesses are adopting the technology. Is that because of lack of understanding of what RPA is about? Is that because of shortage of RPA resources? Or why do you feel the adoption is still slow?
Great question. I think it's both. I think, first of all, I think that it's the lack of knowledge and education about what RPA really is, because there's so much technology out there, machine learning, AI, RPA, all these different things, everything's considered automation now, everything. It doesn't matter. I have software, I have 5 or 6 different programs right on my computer right now that are automation, right? So automation is very watered down. So for people to really understand what it means, you really have to, you have to be educated. You have to understand exactly the meaning of RPA. So I think the lack of understanding and knowledge is a huge thing. Also, resources is another thing, because most of the RPA right now is their focus. RPA has been in the Fortune 500 enterprise world for quite a while now, for years, for 5-10 years already. It's been a while, but now, like anything else, they're finding ways to make it accessible and affordable for smaller businesses. So getting into the smaller businesses, people are starting to need to understand that process, how it works, but yet there's not a whole lot of resources out there to educate them. So, finding, right now, if you look up, if you could Google RPA, you'll see businesses, and a lot of them, small businesses still are excited about it, but they look at the sticker price and like, oh my gosh, I can't afford this. It's because all those articles are mostly lined up for the Fortune 500 world, right? So, but understanding what it means is important, but also finding out who can I go to be able to implement this at a budget that I can afford is a different story. There are a couple of companies that are coming out like that now, and like I said, that's what our focus is: mid-market to small, medium-sized businesses. That's our total focus right now. So we are starting. There are certain companies like ours starting to come out here, but you really have to do your research, because because this industry is growing so fast. It's growing at a rapid rate. I mean, I can't even compare. They were compared to Google. Once Google understood how fast, they had the monopoly of the market. So they were like, okay, we have this. It just shot up. That's where RPA is going right now. RPA is not going like this right now. It's almost going up like this. But so a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon to deliver this service. But the understanding and the information you need to make sure that you're doing it right is very important. So you have to do your research. You have to study on it. You have to read about it. You have to get in front of people to allow them to give you more of a visual on how they can work your company, because RPA is not a cookie cutter. RPA is customized for every different business. So I think those are probably both of them are big. There's not enough resources, and honestly, there's lack of knowledge. There's lack of knowledge. But it's getting spit out so fast now that you can pretty much do your research on what it's about, and when you do your research, just find the right people to work with to help you integrate this into your company, because because it's not offered a lot, the sticker price you can be swindled into doing something that you don't need to do financially, because it's available now before everybody else does. Which is true, but make sure that it matches your finances as well. Make sure that it's not going to take you under, because it can if you implement it right away and don't understand how to really use it.
You're absolutely right. Actually, the point that you made about that, basically RPA has been in the market. I mean, it has been a focus of attention somehow in the Fortune 500 companies, at least for a while now, but small and medium businesses are kind of adopting to it right now. But because there's so much content and so much educational content is aligned for Fortune 500s right now, or maybe due to the shortage of the resources of RPA, generally the sticker price is higher. And that's basically something that is kind of stopping the small and medium businesses from kind of penetrating this. But there's certainly an opportunity. It's more kind of, I think they should look at it as an investment, because anything that can save them costs and add efficiency is an investment for them. And that should become a priority. On that very specific note, I also feel that for services companies who are working in software development services, I think this poses a unique opportunity, because on one hand side, we've seen in the IT market that the IT market is very, very competitive. So starting from resources, for example, for regular technologies like .NET, Java, PHP, Ruby, on Rails, etc., you would find resources in India freelancing for, let's say, as low as $5 an hour type of a rate bracket, and all the way to, like, say, let's say, $65 or $75 an hour kind of a rate bracket. But when it comes to kind of these niche technologies, like, for example, RPA, or let's say AI and machine learning, or NLP, or computer vision, and all of these kind of evolving and kind of newly emerging or newly being adopted technologies, the rates are like double or triple. I mean, I've seen RPA resources being built, let's say, more than $100 an hour kind of a rate bracket, or let's say $150 an hour. So that kind of positions the RPA in a unique spot where the services companies should immediately or in near future adopt it and kind of establish a practice where they can offer services in the field of RPA specifically to small and medium businesses, maybe at a fraction of a cost, but because there's so much of business volume from that side that you can exploit, I think that's a great opportunity for services company, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that's a huge advantage. And I think one thing is when you're looking to integrate RPA, there's one thing that you should definitely do is look at what you are paying your employees to do behind a computer, and what is it? You know, if you could see that you can save 50%. You say, okay, if you're paying them, I'm going to use the number out there, $10,000 a month to do, you know, these repetitive type tasks, right? And if you find a service that you can integrate, or RPA you can integrate, that's going to cost on average $5,000 a month or less, in the long run, that's a huge savings, because there's a $5,000 savings there, and if you keep those employees, it's just a $5,000 added on. But are they bringing more than that value? Because there's not only value on the back end, there's value on the front end of the business. So really understanding the way your business operates and your finances is a huge reason why you want to focus on integrating RPA. And if it's affordable, I would say definitely do it. But the best thing to do, and we're one of them, but there's other companies as well, you know, find out where you can sort of do this on a trial basis, because like anything else, you want to try it out. Once you start trying it out, you'll understand the language, you'll understand how it works, you'll understand the value of it. And when you have that trial, you actually get to let it run on your own and feel exactly how this can impact your company. And during that time, you'll be educated. You'll have more knowledge exactly how to fit this in other areas of your business. You can start putting pen to paper and seeing, is this valuable? Is this affordable? Because that's what you want to start doing. And I would recommend all companies find the biggest pain point that they have, where do they spend most of their time? Where is the most, you know, the areas that is more that they're real busy at, and that's what I will focus on. I would focus on those areas where the complexity is very high, and that's the one I would automate, because when you have this trial and you automate the highest complexity process that you have, the other ones are going to be easy to do. The other ones will be easy, and then you really understand that language. So it's very important that, I mean, you will start seeing, you are start seeing a change in small and medium-sized businesses. We offer a subscription model to make it affordable, so you don't have to, a lot of it's more pay up front, hundreds and thousands of dollars up front, where we offer a subscription model, but we want you to try it out for free. That way you can actually see how it works first. And we know that we call it a sticky service. Once you get it, you're not going to want to let go of it, because the minute you let go of it, you have to train somebody how to do this over and over and over again. When you implement a robot or bot or a digital employee, how to do it, you do it one time, and all you have to do is think on top of your head, how can I make it better? And all you have to do is go back in there and we can help you code it to even make it more efficient. So that's the only thing that you're going to have to worry about is, how can I speed it up? How can I make it more productive? How can I, take full advantage of this process? That's the only thing that you have to worry about. There's no have to worry about, calling in sick, paying benefits, anything like that, because now you figure out a system that really works, and you found out a price model that works for you as well.
That absolutely makes sense, and that strategy about offering a kind of a proof of concept is absolutely the way to go, because there's a barrier to entry. You just want to, as a consulting firm or as a services company, you want to keep the barrier to entry low and allow the people to kind of get a flavor of it, understand what the value is. I mean, look at YouTube and look at, for example, Facebook and all of these platforms. What they did was that initially they built a framework. For example, YouTube did not push any content on the platform itself. They actually provided a platform where people actually started to kind of put a lot of free content. But now they're charging kind of for all the ads. That's the whole business model. And similar is the case with Facebook or, for example, LinkedIn, that they build a community, they give you a flavor of the platform, and then once people stick to it, then obviously they start encashing that. That's kind of a long-term business opportunity in a way that I think these great platforms are leveraging. And in the RPA space as well, we can do the same as well. So I think
absolutely. And I think what...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, going off that is that not only are you learning how the value of RPA works on that trial, but you're learning that you're building that relationship, that trusted relationship with that business as well, because that gives you the understanding, is this a company I want to work with, you know? So it works, especially in a new technology where people are real skeptical. You want to give them an opportunity to see how it works, but you also want to give them the opportunity to see how you work and how you can bring that company value as well.
Yeah, of course. You want to, I mean, if we do any work together, if two parties have to work together, you want to make sure that you're a cultural fit for each other as well, right? You want to try out what's the work ethic, what the delivery timelines, do they kind of abide by the timelines that are set for the project? Do they understand the requirements, how responsive they are? What does the billing cycle look like? You want to get a flavor of that. I think that's a great strategy. And to be very honest, I mean, at Texel, the company that I'm currently working with, we also offer kind of proof of concept, like a 1-week trial where people can test out our services before kind of engaging long term. And that has turned out to be very beneficial. So that's a great tip. Thank you so much, Wilton, for your tips and kind of explaining the whole complex field of RPA in such simple words. I think that's going to be very helpful. And I want to thank you again, and looking forward to staying in touch for any opportunities where we can maybe able to collaborate in near or far future.
Mohammed, I appreciate your time and allow me to speak about it, because I think it's real important for people to understand the importance of RPA. It doesn't matter who they go with or what they go with, as long as they understand how valuable it is, because more than likely they're going to be integrating this in the next few years, or entertaining the idea of having to do it in order to keep up with everyone else. So thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Wilton, for really explaining what RPA is, especially for those who are not familiar with it, and how it can help boost your business performance. Thanks for listening to this episode by BetterTech. If you enjoyed this podcast, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to share it across your favorite social networking platform. We look forward to bringing you the latest industry news in our next episode. In the meantime, take a look at our other episodes and hit subscribe at the links in the description box below so that you don't miss out on the latest in tech.